paragraphs of your statement, and if you could follow the orders you have set them out in your statement, you provide a general background to what you will eventually speak to, which is the actual involvement of the task team in that operation. So if you could start from paragraph 99 with the events of the 17th of April 2024. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I will start with the incident that happened, which I had presented before the South Africans on the 6th of July, was that a shooting incident that occurred, which led into the death of an employee of a Q-Tech engineering company that is based in Vereeniging in Gauteng, where a late Mr. Aman Swart was killed while he was in his vehicle outside the workplace. What we understand is that the subsequent to that shooting, which was involving the Transnet contract, it seems to have involved organized crime, and to some degree it had involved police corruption, which had posed the risk to the investigation team that was dealing with that incident. So I was advised that the organized crime unit, which had taken over that investigation, were operating under the leadership of the Deputy Provincial Commissioner in Gauteng, who is responsible for investigation, and that is Major General Khumalo. And this investigation became part of the wider investigation which took place subsequent to that incident in Gauteng, which it is called the Gauteng Counterintelligence Operation, GCI Ops. After the shooting incident that occurred in April 2024, 3 suspects were arrested as a result of that investigation. Amongst the 3 suspects, or the names of the 3 suspects, one of them at the time was a police officer, Michael Puletau. He was arrested together with 2 individuals, Musa Kekana as well as Tiago Floyd Deni Mabusela. So the charges that were leveled against them, they varied from murder, conspiracy, attempted murder, possession of suspected stolen property, as well as the possession of unlicensed firearm and ammunition. Through forensic analysis, those firearms were linked with multiple other murders other than the one that occurred of Mr. Swart. So when the forensic analyzed these firearms, it just strengthened the case against the accused and exposing these accused to a wider syndicate which had significant access to finance, and at times, because there were a lot of money that were being paid for the jobs that they were doing. I'm told that when the SAPS had to appear in court on this arrest of the 3, they did everything possible to oppose bail of these suspects. But unfortunately, Mr. Puleta was later granted bail. And the reason he has cited at the time was his health condition. And this sparked grave concern amongst investigators as well as the prosecution team, because they started fearing their lives and the threat towards their lives started escalating. And those threats were coming verbally and in some instances physical intimidations. and at times I'm told that they were being followed as they were moving around. As I said, this suspect was a police officer at the time. So upon his release, he resigned from the service immediately. So his resignation was captured as dishonorable from the service.
Thank you.
So as a result, in August, Ms. Kutsie, who is a senior prosecutor, directed a correspondence to the head of the team that was investigating at the time, a team of organized crime, which was led by a Brigadier Hopabe, who was heading the organized crime in Gauteng province, as well as her commander, which is the Deputy Provincial Commissioner, Crime Detection, Major General Kumalo. And that correspondence was also addressed to the Provincial Commissioner of Gauteng, Lieutenant General Mtombeni. The same correspondence was addressed to the Deputy National Commissioner, Crime Detection, Lieutenant General Sibia, and the National Commissioner was a recipient of the same correspondence. So in this correspondence, Ms. Kutsie, who is a senior public prosecutor, formally expressed the threats being faced by the investigating team, by those that are accused of the crime of murder of Mr. Swart, together with the associates that are involved. And the advocate requested an urgent protection for 2 investigators that are part of the investigation team.
Before you proceed, you reference a letter there which you have annexed as MK8. Can we perhaps, as you go through that part of the testimony, turn to the actual annexure? MK8 chair starts at page 181 of file 2. And perhaps in addressing the concerns raised by Mrs. Kutsie, it might be appropriate to read some aspects of the letter. She has itemized the issues, and I would like to refer you specifically to some to buttress the evidence you just given. Do you have the letter before you?
Yes, Commissioner, I have the letter.
If you could start from paragraph 4 to 6 of Mrs. Kutsie's letter. And read that into the record, sorry.
Okay, Commissioner, on this letter from the Ms. Kutsie, the prosecutor, paragraph 4 reads, I quote, investigations have also revealed that the assassination is directly linked to whistleblowing to the hotline of Transnet, which involved millions of rands of corrupt activities. Paragraph 5, the investigation also revealed that the firearms used during commission of the assassination and found in their positions are linked to multiple assassinations and serious violent crime scenes. Paragraph 6 reads that the cell phones linkage investigation have revealed high-profile organized crime and crime scene planning. End quote.
And these are some of the concerns that Mrs. Kutsie raised. If I refer you to the next page of the same letter, that speaks to the bail application that was granted in respect of former police officer Mr. Tau.
Sorry, you will have to repeat that
Yes, Chair.
at a later stage. General, also read paragraph 3 into the record, please.
Thanks, Commissioner. Paragraph 3 of this letter reads as follows. The investigation has proven that all 3 accused are involved in a serious organized crime syndicate, of which almost R1 million was offered for the assassination in this regard.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for pointing it out. It's an important aspect. It's one that the next witnesses in particular will concentrate on, and we appreciate that it be brought to the fore. Getting back to the issue then, General, at page 183, item 10. Item 10 concerns the bail application that you referenced. Let me start here. It's correct that that was the bail application in which Mr. Officer Dau was successful. Is that correct?
That is correct.
It was the same bail application. Was it the same bail application in respect of the other 2 accused in that matter? Would you know?
Because I was not part of it, I was reading from the letter.
Okay.
Yes.
Now then, just paragraph 10 seems to reflect concerns regarding how the magistrate dealt with that application. So if I may request you to read that into the record.
The entire paragraph 10 reads as follows. As a letter from Ms. Kutse, the Senior Prosecutor, Regional Court, Vereeniging. The magistrate, for some bizarre and unexplainable reason, decided to grant Dau bail of 10,000 rand and place him under house arrest. The reality of the situation is that there is nobody who can watch over him 24/7 to ensure that he does in fact comply with the conditions. It is actually unenforceable. The prosecution has already spoken to the DPP to appeal the decision of the magistrate, and we just await the typed court recordings of the bail application to be present to the DPP to file the appeal.
And paragraph 11 and 13 then of the same letter on the same page specifically address the issues regarding Officer Dau. So if you could just proceed to read those 2.
Paragraph 11 reads, the investigation has revealed that Dau is one of the main organizers behind these organized crime syndicates. His release on bail has intensified the danger of the safety of the investigation team, especially Mbele and Sithole, who are the people who made statements in the case, and they were the well-known faces who attended every court session. Mbele has been identified as the investigating officer, as she has presented detailed sworn statement to oppose the first and the second bail application. During the first few court sessions, the investigation team was actually followed from the court building, and many threats have been made inside the courtroom by the family and friends, and threats have been received via informers and even from the high-ranking police officer in the Val area, in the Valrand area. Paragraph 13 reads, Dau clearly has a very large support system, and large amount of money are spent to obtain the best and most expensive advocates. The money is clearly coming from the syndicate, as all 3 accused are currently unemployed.
And lastly then, at paragraphs 14 and 15, Mrs. Kotsia addresses the question of how the investigations have been conducted. And lastly, the state. Apologies, I'm not on record. I'll have to start again. I request you to then turn to paragraphs 14 and 15. And the first speaks to Mrs. Kotsia's view on how the case is progressing and it's been conducted. And 15 speaks to the danger that is now confronted, that now confronts the detectives.
14, Commissioner, reads as follows. The case is brilliantly investigated, and the accused are 100% connected to all the charges against them. They obviously face long terms of imprisonment as well as defined life sentence for the assassination. Number 15 reads, from the above mentioned, it is clear that the lives of the investigating officers are currently in grave danger, as well as the safety of police dockets.
And I see at 16, final paragraph, it's a direct now request to the addressees in that letter.
The specific address request that is on this letter, Commissioner, on paragraph 16 reads, you are requested to urgently arrange for the safeguarding of especially Mbele and Sithole. There is a real danger that their lives are in extreme danger, as these organized criminals will do everything in their ability to try and destroy the evidence against them and or to seriously derail the trial. It has just now become so much easier with Dow having unlimited access to technology and his syndicate's friends and family.
Thank you. From paragraph 105 of your statement, then at page 36, you then deal with what transpired after receipt of this letter, particularly from General Khumalo's perspective, if you could pick it up from there.
Commissioner, I had mentioned that General Khumalo, who was the leader or was a project manager of the political task team in KZN, had been appointed as a divisional commissioner of crime intelligence. Through the formal sub-channels, the request that was provided to the head of investigation in the province, which is also a Major General Khumalo, that Khumalo requested crime intelligence, which fell under a Major General Lekalakala in Gauteng, who is responsible for crime intelligence in Gauteng, was requested to conduct the threat assessment as a result of this letter. And the threat assessment was then assigned to Colonel Ntuli, who works under crime intelligence. Colonel Ntuli's findings were that the risk was high and they recommended 24-hour protection. In addition to what Colonel Ntuli requested was that Lieutenant General Khumalo need to be informed. And after General Khumalo, as the head of crime intelligence, who was responsible for this threat assessment, after he was informed, the case, this resulted into the case being moved to the national office, and therefore the counterintelligence had to be involved, which then resulted into the case within counterintelligence of crime intelligence being registered to run parallel to this case of Vereeniging. So Lieutenant General Khumalo, as the head of crime intelligence, after being briefed about this threat, he then tasked counterintelligence to register a case so they can run an investigation parallel to what was sitting in court already in Vereeniging.
Then your paragraph 106, you basically summarize what you have read into the record from Ms. Coetzee letter. And at paragraph 107, you summarize the impact of the claims by Ms. Coetzee in her letter. And if you could take the commission through that.
Given the apparent association of the SAPS officials of all ranks with persons who are subject of investigation, the threat made against investigators and allegations that were leveled against the magistrate of bribery, established links to members of the cartel that were under investigation, a growing concern of infiltration of police, and the reduction of the investigation team, which at the time there were 5 members, and they were reduced to 2.
May I interrupt you, and I do apologize. A bit of a misstep. I skipped paragraph 106, which actually reflects information you subsequently obtained over and above what Mrs. Kotsia complained of. And you indicate that through the investigative efforts involving now counterintelligence, you came to learn of other information. So if I can ask that we take a step back to paragraph 106, my mistake, I apologize.
Yes, Commissioner, in this paragraph I was trying to indicate, which I in time came to learn, that through the investigation that the challenges, various challenges were experienced by the investigation team, which will include a deliberate omission of crucial information which the detectives were expecting to come from forensic services. Forensic services is within the police, who are charged with the responsibility of assisting the investigators with analysis of those firearms that were found. So these investigators of this organized crime team, they started experiencing the omission of some critical information that the forensic service is supposed to be providing to them. Not only that, these investigators will start interacting, will be invited to some meetings by senior officials in the South African Police Service, who then started engaging on the case that these members were investigating. And amongst those engagement they started having with senior officers within the South African Police Service, I must indicate that those engagements were not necessarily largely in Gauteng province, as these members were working under Gauteng province, but they were invited by senior officers at the head office of detective services. At times there were monies, bribes that were offered to them, not to oppose bail. In some cases that involved Dow, especially in the main. And so the detectives, in the course of the investigation, they felt threatened as these engagements that were happening with the senior officers seems to indicate that there is a high level of connection between the accused or the suspects and senior officials within the police at the head office in the main within detective environment. Moreover, during the period of the incarceration and while on bail, the accused, who's a former police officer, a former detective, Michael Puletau, had made threats against the very same investigation team.
Before
Yes, Chair.
the general proceeds, Advocate Sello, as you are aware, the ordinary rules of evidence applicable in court proceedings do not apply to this commission.
Indeed, Chair.
In terms of negatively impacted. A lot of the evidence in this context is hearsay. Must we assume that down the line it will be corroborated?
In fact, that answer is part answered by the next paragraph, which is what I jumped to. So if I can permit him to conclude, he will then speak of his source of the information, and then I can address the question of the availability of the source.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So then, General, that leads us into paragraph 107. So if you could summarize that paragraph 107, and you, in that narrative, disclose your source of information, of the information you just set out before the commissioners.
Commissioner, as I said earlier, that Lieutenant General Kumalo was the Divisional Commissioner of Crime Intelligence. Major General Likalakala was the head of intelligence, or is a head of intelligence in Gauteng province. Colonel Ntuli worked under Likalakala. So Ntuli conducted threat assessment, And subsequent to that, Lieutenant General Kumalo at the division is informed. General Kumalo established an investigation, register an investigation under counterintelligence, which runs parallel to this, in order to establish this threat, to try and investigate it further. But when these threats were presented to him towards these two detectives that were remaining in the team, he then felt that it is important for a special intervention to be made in order to protect these two investigators. So it is for that reason that General Kumalo felt that he needs to request support from law enforcement who falls outside Gauteng province in order to make sure that the work of these two detectives is protected parallel to the work that he already started from counterintelligence.
And then if you could take it through to paragraph 108, then I will get back to the chairperson's question.
Yeah. Commissioner, the assistance that was required by General Kumalo was of a highly specialized team that was to be deployed in Gauteng to assist in order to ensure that the investigation advanced swiftly. I can indicate, as I said earlier, that Lieutenant General Kumalo requested that a team of members from KwaZulu-Natal Political Killings Task Team be seconded to his investigation team, which was a Gauteng counterintelligence operations, in order to assist with the investigation. So he was specific as he was asking when he contacted me over the phone. In that request, when he was discussing with me, he ought to have explained the reason behind this. Counterintelligence is a more of a covert operation. So it is the work that ordinarily we don't account to in an open portfolio committee in the police, but through the Joint Standing Committee, that's how they account. So he gave me an explanation that will justify why he needs this specialization to come and assist.
If I may then refer the chairperson, at paragraph 107 read with 108, those two paragraphs speak to an engagement and a direct request by Lieutenant General Kumalo to General Nkhonazi regarding assistance. Thank you, Chair. And having pointed that out, if you could just skip to paragraph 156 and 157. And in the context of where the witness started describing the nature of his testimony and perhaps evidence that would be available to the Commission. 156, he makes the point that the bulk of the information that informs the work of the Commission relies on ongoing investigations, and as such cannot be disclosed publicly, as this would adversely affect these investigations. Having pointed that out, however, at 157, he gives assurance to the Commission that full disclosure of all relevant facts will be made at subsequent in-camera hearings. So to your question, there will be corroboration. It would just be a question of the extent to which that would be held in public or in camera. Because of the possibility of some of it being in camera, I'm not in a position to say as to which witness will be available for that session. Yes.
General Nkhonazi?
Yes.
What you speak to in paragraph 106, what you're detailing there, is this information that you received in the course of formal engagements with whoever the sources are, or it's informal? I just want to know, where do we place it?
Commissioner, when I raised the issue of the engagement that I had with Lieutenant General Kumalo, as is outlined on paragraph 108, where he called me and asking for assistance. He then explained what led into him asking. Hence, I bring those
Thank you.
on 106.
Thank you, Chair. You spoke of 2 detectives in paragraph 107, but I think you overlooked an important aspect regarding the 2 detectives. Would you like to highlight that?
I must indicate that, Commissioner, there were 5 altogether. And what made this threat to be high was because there was a reduction of the number of investigators into that case of Vereniging from 5 to 2. Well, of course, we don't know the reasons as to what led into that. So part of the threat was that the team that was busy with this investigation felt that they can protect themselves because there's quite a lot of them, but suddenly they are reduced to 2. And that made them feel more vulnerable. And as a result, and in part, the death threats were made on them. And there was also this growing concern about infiltration of the police, which might have led into the reduction of these number of detectives that they deployed.
Let's turn then to the request made to you by Lieutenant General Khumalo. Could you give a brief description of the nature of the request?
Commissioner, Lieutenant General Khumalo, if you remember, if you recall, I mentioned earlier that he has been with the political killings task team from inception in 2018. So he understands the methodology of operations that we are running within the political task team and different disciplines and expertise that are sitting there. The Commissioner made the reference to paragraph 93 about the achievement of the team, which has been reflected on the successes that they've made over time. So he was well aware that if anyone that is going to be able to have the 2 detectives from Gauteng, they better come from that team because it's well equipped and he understands how they operate. So that's why he approached me and he asked me if I can release some of these investigators to come to Gauteng so they can assist.
And how many did he request and for what purpose?
He requested 10 of them, and they had specific purpose that they were going to, specific roles they were going to play. Amongst the 10 will include a commander that was going to be in charge of the team, the analyst that were going to assist the team, the investigators, including the digital forensic investigators, ballistic analysts, crime scene experts, as well as a designated firearm officer and cell phone data analysis. These are all the disciplines that he was specific on, considering that there were cell phones and there were firearms that were involved in this investigation, and he needed to have all these people that will assist with the investigation.
And what was your response to the request by General Khumalo?
I granted approval for him. I must indicate, in me granting approval for the team to go, as I said earlier, it was over the phone communication between me and him. And he was requesting because he had already registered a covert investigation. So when you do covert investigation in normal sense of things, you don't throw out written correspondences that can be traced. Because then it will be known that these are the people that are moving to this direction to do the work. So they moved and fell under that covert operation, and they went to Gauteng. That was between me and him, of course. The general is reporting at the national level, I'll assume, as he's going to appear before the commission, he will be able to explain the level of engagement that he was having with the National Commission in this regard.
And at paragraph 112, you point out a significant point regarding their deployment.
Yeah, that's correct. The 10 members from the political killings task team.
So at 111.
Or due to the sensitive nature of the identities, as I said, because they were involved in the covert operations, therefore I cannot be able to indicate the identities of the 12 who are they, but we have them on record. Maybe during the in-camera discussion we might, if need be, discuss that.
So we're at a point now where you have approved the deployment of the 10 task team members to the Gauteng counterintelligence ops. Upon being released and accepted into GCI ops, what becomes of these 10 people? How do they operate?
GCI ops being the project that is running in Gauteng, the 10 members from the political killing task team became part of the operation, the GCI operation. So they then operated under the banner of the GCI ops Gauteng.
I take it that in that role, there would then be dockets in the normal course of police work and investigations. Is that correct?
That is correct, Commissioners. You'll recall that Vereeniging incident had happened, and it was part of the organized crime Gauteng, where these threats originated from. A parallel investigation established by counterintelligence from the division side, and all these dockets that were registered in this project in Gauteng, they fell under Gauteng province, and KZN had no business on it. But because the 10 members that came to Gauteng are coming from KZN, they became part of that investigation, and those case dockets belong to Gauteng province. They're not under KwaZulu-Natal.
So you say they were not under KwaZulu-Natal. Could it be said that could the political killings task team claim ownership of those dockets that were being investigated under the GCI ops with the assistance of the 10 task team members?
No, negative, Commissioner. The members, when they left KwaZulu-Natal, they only left with their tactical equipment only. The investigation that was conducted in KwaZulu-Natal remained with the political killing task team in KwaZulu-Natal. So the 10 that moved to Gauteng, they moved similar to the group that had moved to Fort Hare in Eastern Cape. So they did not go with dockets. Those that went to Eastern Cape had gone there without dockets. They registered dockets in Eastern Cape. It became Eastern Cape dockets, although the team kept them because they were working. The team, that project was not under Eastern Cape, it was under the political task team, so they kept those dockets in the team. But the one in Gauteng, there were already dockets in Gauteng under the GCI operations. The team only arrived in Gauteng without any case docket, and they joined the investigation already that is running in Gauteng. So the dockets in Gauteng did not fall under the political killings task team, they remained the Gauteng dockets.
You at 114, you talked to the integration of the 10 task team members into the GCI ops operation. Can you talk to that? At 114.
At 114, I can indicate, Commissioners, that, as I said earlier, the methodology that was used by the team in KZN, the team brought that to this Gauteng operation, which was incorporated in Gauteng, which then led into the arrest of one Mr. Katiso Molefe, who was arrested, became the fourth suspect on the Vereeniging murder case. And that also included the execution of a search and seizure warrant at the property of another individual, Mr. Vusmus Ket Matlala. Both those operations, they were running on the same day, on the 6th of December, 2024, in Gauteng.
So, if to check my understanding, and in particular in relation, for example, to the arrest of Mr. Katiso Molefe, you suggest that the task team members were involved in that operation, they were a part of that operation, but they were not doing so as falling under the auspices of the task team. They were falling under GCI ops. Is my understanding correct?
It is correct. If I can maybe request, Commissioner, as we have done when we call the members political killings task team. So this is a group of members that are part of the team, or some of them are coming from Limpopo, some of them are coming from Cape Town, some of them from other provinces, and from different disciplines, be it crime intelligence, be it detective and forensic, but they are not referred to as Limpopo, they are not referred to as forensic, they are referred to as a political killings task team. So the 10, upon leaving KZN, they put aside the title of being a political killings task team, and they wore the badge of being a Gauteng counterintelligence operation. So going forward, we'll then talk about the Gauteng organized crime investigative team operation that was running. So under his profile or portfolio as crime intelligence, not as a project leader for the political killings task teams. Therefore, he will come and explain more of what this operation is all about.
You next specifically make reference to two arrests. The arrest of, the heading of your subject is arrest of Molefe and Madlanga. And you deal with a number of issues pertaining to these arrests. I would like us to go through that, starting at paragraph 116.
Commissioner, the heading here says arrest of Molefe and Madlanga. Because we are covering, we had said earlier on paragraph 114 that there was a search and seizure at Madlanga, but not the arrest. That was on the 6th. But as we work on this paragraph going down, we're going to reflect the arrest of Madlanga, which then occurred later. That's why the heading reads arrest of both Molefe and Madlanga. As I said, Commissioner, that General Kumalo, Lieutenant General Kumalo, as a project leader, as a person who had asked me to release members to go and assist, we therefore remain in contact, communication between me and him, partly mainly because I needed to get a regular feedback about these members that he had requested for, because I needed to establish the extent, the duration that these members are going to remain in this team. So we had to keep in contact and updating me on what was happening. And the main reason is because the members still had to execute the task of KZN as it was given to them, which will include some of the work that was done in the Eastern Cape. But they were withdrawn to come and support him in Gauteng. So I did not want that prolonged deployment of theirs to have an impact on the work of the task team in KZN. That's why we had that continuous communication in order to be able to know what is going on. So, Commissioners, that's why I'm saying that it was necessary for this communication in order for me to be able to know the duration of this operation. And that is why then during this engagement between me and him, he will constantly update me about the work that the GCI ops were doing in Gauteng. And he then outlined to me that on the 6th of December last year, the members that the operation GCI Ops in Gauteng resulted in the arrest of Mr. Mlife, as well as the search and seizure and the questioning of Mr. Madlanga. Both of them were accused. One was accused of murder on Vereeniging, and the other one was questioned with regard to the kidnapping of one Mr. Jerry Boshocha. So I am advised, Commissioner, that soon after Mulife's arrest and charge for murder and conspiracy to commit murder, after that charges were leveled against him, there's been further charges that has also be included on Mr. Molefe. Mr. Madlanga was questioned in December, but only to be arrested in May this year, where he was arrested on 3 counts of attempted murder as well as conspiracy to commit murder. So both of these individuals have now formally been charged with serious offences for which harsh sentences will probably be imposed by the law if proven. So it is my considered view that the secondment of these 10 members from the political killings task team was correct. The decision that we made in terms of assisting in dealing with the organized crime and also satisfying the concerns that were raised by the senior prosecutor, Advocate Kutsie, when she wrote a letter and raising a concern with regard to the work of the investigators on the Vereeniging case.
So in terms of yes,
Just
yes,
a moment,
Commissioner.
Advocate Silla. General, the secondment of the 10 members of the task team, what became of it? Is it still in place? Are they still seconded?
Commissioner, the members are still on the ground. The operation is still ongoing. The very same Gauteng counterintelligence operation is the one that led to the arrest of Mr. Molefe again, is the one that led into the arrest of Mr. Madlanga. It's a team that today, as we sit here, has been part of the opposing of the bail of Mr. Madlanga, which was denied by court today.
Thank you, Commissioner. So now, on our timeline, we've come up to the 6th of December 2024 with the arrest of Mr. Molefe and the search and seizure warrant being executed on Mr. Madlanga and questioning both of them regarding the kidnapping of one Mr. Jerry Boshocha. We go over live at page 43 of your statement, and that the topic there is headed the disestablishment of the PKTT. And your first paragraph there precedes with the wording on or about the 2nd of January 2025. Before you address yourself to that, the last date we had was the 6th of December that you speak of. The next is the 2nd of January. At that time, did anything of importance arise or occur that you'd like to bring to the chair's attention? Not what you subsequently learned had happened, but any other issue you'd like to address.
Commissioners, the 2nd of January 2021, I cannot recall the exact time, I received...
No, not 2021.
2nd of January 2025, beg your pardon. I received a WhatsApp message from a friend who sent me what looks like a letter that was signed by the Minister of Police disestablishing the political killings task team.
You say in that paragraph that you had not received formal communication in this regard.
That is true, Commissioner. I had not received any communication from anyone with regard to this establishment of the team.
So you established on the 2nd of something that had transpired involving the task team before the 2nd, but you did not do so formally. You learned through a friend, so you say.
That is correct, Commissioner. I learned through a WhatsApp message with a copy of the letter that was sent by a friend.
What were the implications? What was your understanding of the implications of the letter that you?
That this is a team that was formed in 2018, where the executive or the head of the executive, which is the president of the country, was involved. A group of ministers, which we refer to as the interministerial committee, were overseeing the work of this team. Different steering committees that were charged with the responsibility to oversee the work of the team, as well as, more importantly, the budget, the financial cost that was given to the team. But most critical are the investment that needed closure with regard to the work that the team was doing. We're going to be affected by this letter. That's why I was surprised, because getting it from a private person who is not involved in police operations was a surprise.
And
before, I'm sorry.
Yes, Chair.
Before you go on, did the minister have the power to disband the PKTT? If he did, where did the power derive from?
Commissioner, when I started earlier, I had outlined, invited the commissioners to read the sections of the Constitution of the Republic on the role of the minister or the member of cabinet, which is the Minister of Police.
I remember the main thing you stated was that the minister creates or stipulates the policy. That's the main thing I heard. So that's why I'm now asking the question. Because
yes,
I don't think disbanding the PKTT relates
policy and direction, but not on operational matters. That's what it's another implication of the letter as it was signed by the minister talking to the operational works of the police.
I may be going ahead of where you and Advocate Sello SC are, but I'm interested to know why there would then have been compliance with the instruction to disband if, as you say, this did not fall within the remit. Of the minister.
Commissioner, I had indicated 30th of March 2025. So the letter comes in between that. I've indicated the success rate of the team and the fact that there were still cases that were in court. And a matter of fact, as the Interministerial Committee continuously receiving reports, I think the last report will have been given to them in September of 2023, prior to the national elections. That was the last time that the executive interacted with the team. So the letter coming up on the 2nd of January, written in this fashion, it created a bit of a problem for me because I did not understand the background where it comes from. But I guess as we go through with the investigation, we will be able to express some of the challenges that we experience as a result of that letter.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Perhaps, and then to just close up that point, you have attached the letter itself to your statement. You make reference to that at paragraph 128 at page 44. It is annexure MK9, and it starts at page 184 of File 2. So why don't we go to the letter and concluding perhaps your answer to the chair. Looking at the letter, if we go to the second page, I see it is signed by the Minister of Police, Mr. Mkhunu. It's dated the 31st of December 2024. Is that the letter that you say you received on the 2nd through a friend, on WhatsApp communication?
That is correct.
Okay. Looking at that letter, I see it covers 3 major issues. The first, and they're numbered, first relates to the filling of posts in the intelligence division. Is that an aspect that is relevant to your operations, both as a political killings task team or as the provincial commissioner? Would that fall within your remit? Item 1.
The filling of vacancies of crime intelligence.
Yes.
It is a responsibility of the divisional commissioner, who is Lieutenant General Kumalo, together with the National Commission. However, the crime intelligence in each province ought to have the leader,
yes,
which provides services to the province. So therefore, in that, it will affect me as a provincial commissioner.
Now, based on this letter, were you directly impacted by the instruction to suspend the filling of posts within the intelligence division in KZN specifically? Were you directly impacted? By you, I mean the province and you.
Yes, commissioners, the impact of this is severe. We already have been trying to put some reforms within crime intelligence in order to respond to the growing crime levels that we're experiencing in the country. You'll recall, Commissioner, in 2021, July unrest, and subsequent to that, the Human Rights Commission that was that conducted hearing. The level of intelligence or the poor performance of intelligence was highlighted during the Human Rights Commission, and the recommendation was that we need to improve in this regard. So therefore, for us not to fill up vacancies that are critical within the space was going to have an impact in our efforts to fight crime and maintaining public order in the province of KwaZulu-Natal.
The next item is under 2. It's headed ports of entry. My reading of that part of the letter is that the minister was calling for a report in regard to border management. Do you read it the same?
That is correct.
Okay. So, and the third then is headed political killings task team. And perhaps it's only appropriate that you read what the minister's directive as reflected therein into the record, and that would part answer, I believe, the question posed by the chair.
The letter is on this paragraph, if I may quote, political killings task team. In 2019, a directive was made to the National Commissioner of Police following the Morane Commission report, even though not flowing directly from such, that an interministerial task force South Africa. I therefore direct that the political killings task team be disestablished immediately. Further, that a preliminary report in this regard be submitted to the minister by the 20th of January 2025. The final and closing report must be submitted to the ministry's management executive committee meeting late January 2025, the date of which will be communicated as soon as possible. Yours sincerely, Minister of Police, Mr. E.S. Mkhunu, MP.
Let me ask this direct question, General. Is this a policy or a policing issue, and why?
Commissioner, as in my opinion, views and experience I have in the police of over 30 years, this is a letter that is operational, not policy. It talks to the operational work of the police, of the SAPS, mainly so because this is one team that has been successful out of the 11 teams that are running at national level. But it is the only team that receives this type of alert. So I felt that this is an operational thing, notwithstanding the fact that there are other background references in terms of the establishment of this team that were omitted, perhaps were not known to the Minister, the reason of which I think he is in a better position to explain.
Thank you, Chair. I know further on in your statement you deal with these issues, but I would like to invite you to give a preliminary response to the statement made by the Minister in the letter. And I quote, "My observation in this regard, as indicated above, is that further existence of this team is no longer required, nor is it adding any value to policing in South Africa." Do you have any comment to that statement?
Commissioner, I disagree with the assessment of the Minister in this regard. I have displayed earlier today, also in the statement, previous pages, the work that the team have done, the success rate, the performance that influence the extra work to be given to the team, which will include the work in Eastern Cape as well as traditional leadership. So for a minister to reach this conclusion, worse because the minister has not received a formal briefing on the work that this team is doing. So to me, it was a wrong conclusion that the minister has reached, which is why it became a matter of concern.
I think somewhere in your statement, but as part of that same theme, you say that the disbandment would have resulted in all dockers having to be sent to different corners within KwaZulu-Natal to be handled by individual investigators who would no longer have the benefit of this integrated approach to, one, investigating and also two, to prosecution, which, according to your statement, would have been disadvantageous to the process.
That is correct, Commissioner. I can agree with you more. The Minister's conclusion of saying that the team does not have any value in policing in South Africa was misplaced. It is my belief that perhaps, as I had said in the public, in the very same month of January, that someone influenced the Minister to do this.
Yes.
Thank you. General, you say that at the time of this letter, the Minister had not received a formal briefing on the work of the task team. You say formal. Had he received any briefing at all from you in particular?
Commissioner, when the Minister arrived, I cannot remember the date when he was appointed, he had invited the police management to the South African Police Service Academy at Pretoria West, where presentations were given to the Minister. But that was strategic presentation that were given to the Minister, not specifics on operational matters. I had an opportunity also to stand take a podium there and present to the Minister. One of the remarks I made in my presentation to him was to invite him to visit KZN so that he get to experience some of the operational challenges that we have as a province, especially because he's a resident of the very same province. So it was in a part of my presentation when I was talking to him. So, but in a formal briefing as it was done during the IMC of the previous administration. There was never such a briefing. There was never such an opportunity presented for a formal briefing to be made to outline in details of what the team has achieved up until the time when he wrote this letter. Actually, up to date, he has never had that platform.
And perhaps if I may just follow up on that. Earlier in the morning, you, in discussion of the IMC, you stated that the Minister of Police is the chair of that committee. Is that correct? That
is correct. Is the chair of the committee.
Do you know who calls for the meetings of that committee?
Although I will not necessarily know between the ministries how they communicate, but from the police, we'll always get correspondence coming from the Minister of Police as a chairperson convening such a briefing session. So that will go via the National Commissioner's office and it will be brought to us so that we prepare for that briefing and the date when the briefing is going to take place.
Since the Minister Mpuno assumed office, I think it was May 2024, have you received such an invitation?
We have never received an invitation at all.
Okay. Getting back to your statement then from paragraph 126. From 126, you engage with the steps you took upon learning of the minister's decision on the 2nd of December, albeit through a friend. Can we talk about the immediate steps you took upon learning of the minister's decision? Where we started paragraph 126 of your statement.
Yes.
Ms. Siller, don't you mean paragraph 123?
I do mean paragraph 123 indeed. Thank you, Commissioner. my page flipped. It's marked for another purpose. It is 123. I apologize, General, for the confusion. Thank you, Commissioner.
Yes, Commissioner. Perhaps maybe I must pause to mention something that perhaps I did not include on my statement, that upon receipt of this WhatsApp message with a letter, the first point of contact was to engage the Chief of Staff at the Minister's office, Mr. Nkabinde. He's a well-known individual to me. I personally called him, understanding that there can never be any letter signed by the Minister that does not pass his desk, or at least pass his hand. So I asked about it, whether is he aware, or maybe it's just a fake letter that is created by someone and is circulating. So I asked him if he's aware of such a letter that is disestablishing the team. And his response was yes, he is aware of the letter. In actual fact, his words were, the letter has been going back and forth. Someone crafting it, sending it to the minister, has been corrected. Eventually, it was put under pressure to dispatch it to the Office of the National Commissioner. So the letter, as I saw it, it's a correct letter that was signed by the Minister of Police. So from there, because it was unofficial when I was talking to him when he gave me the response, I then felt at the time what had confused me the most, Commissioner, is because I will expect, obviously, the letters addressed to the National Commissioner, that the National Commissioner will communicate with me about this. I took an opportunity to call him. The National Commissioner must indicate, Commissioner, that he was on leave at the time when I received this letter, when I saw this letter. He was on vacation leave. I cannot remember exact date. It could have been a Tuesday, but it was during the week when this letter came out. A weekend prior to that, which was a Saturday, the National Commissioner and the Minister of Police had visited KwaZulu-Natal province to come and support us as we were mourning the death of one of our colleagues. So there was a funeral that took place at the area of Mpangeni in KwaZulu-Natal. It's a Saturday. And when the funeral ended, the minister, in his own words, was that he's going to rest in the province, he's going to be around the province, so I must be aware of that. And the National Commissioner was going to be starting his leave on Monday, so we all went separate ways. National Commissioner traveled to Pretoria that Saturday evening, and the minister will have gone to his residence in KwaZulu-Natal. It's a Saturday. Sunday goes by, the Monday, I cannot remember the date, but 2 or 3 days later, the letter surfaced. So the National Commission has just taken leave. So that's what troubled me, because I find it odd that you cannot have a National Commissioner or the minister writing a letter to the National Commissioner that has got such content and these allegations if the minister had not discussed this with the National Commissioner somewhere before. Perhaps it's just formalizing the communication that he had had with the National Commission. That's why then I took a decision to contact the National Commission to try and establish from him whether is he aware about this letter, has he been told about this establishment. And the National Commissioner's response was that he is on leave, which his leave is going to end on the 14th of January, and he hasn't had an opportunity to consider the content of the letter. But he had nothing to do with the disbandment of this political killings task team. And he also informed me that the Minister of Police has never sought his advice before taking this decision. So I also advised him that I also had not been engaged about the decision of the minister. So that is the first engagement I had with the National Commissioner as he was on leave.
He was still on leave at the time you had that engagement?
That is correct.
Before then we discuss what you did next, can I go back to an issue you raised and you said it's not part of your statement? And that relates to your contact with the Chief of Staff in the Minister's office. And if I recall correctly, you said the Chief of Staff informed you that the letter was going to and fro. I think those are the words you used. Do you recall that?
That's correct.
What do you know between who that letter was going to and fro?
Commissioners, I did not ask him who are these back and forth, but my conclusion was that the drafters of the letter were on the other side of the country.
Country, you said? So
the other side of the country, because the minister was in KwaZulu-Natal.
Okay.
So the drafters would have been elsewhere, not together with the minister. And the correspondence will have gone to the Chief of Staff, who then directed to the minister. And perhaps the minister will not be happy with some content and he will bring it back to the Chief of Staff, and the Chief of Staff will send it to the drafters. That's why the back and forth statement come from. That is my assumption. Okay. And eventually, after the signature was placed on the document, then the Chief of Staff was, on his own words, pressured to make sure that the National Commissioner's Office receives and acknowledges the receipt on the letter on the day. So he never told me who pressured him to do that. So I guess the investigation will be able to discover where did the letter originate from before the minister signs it.
The pressure was on the Chief of Staff.
That is correct, Commissioner, according to his own words.
And over what period, if you know, was the minister in KZN? I know from the time of the funeral. When was the funeral? And do you know up to what point?
I do not know the duration that the minister was in KZN for, but actually I don't even know when he arrived in KZN, but the funeral was on the Saturday, which was the last Saturday of December. The funeral was on that Saturday in KwaZulu-Natal, and on the 2nd is when this letter was signed. And when we separated on the day of the funeral, the minister told me that he's going to be in the province. So whether he had left the province maybe between the funeral day and the date of the letter, I do not know.
Thank you, General.
Thank you, Chair. So the National Commissioner was not able to shed any better light on the letter because he says he wasn't aware of it. He was not engaged before it was crafted and dispatched, and he didn't know anything about it. That's what you. What then did you do next?
Commissioners, I made a suggestion to the National Commissioner that he must speak to the Minister in order to be able to establish the factors that made the Minister to consider arriving in this conclusion and a drastic decision to disestablish the team. Because in my views, it was irrational and irregular. The decision was going to have a serious impact, as I said, in terms of the investigation of crime and those cases that were before the team. And also in the main, because I, as per the Constitution, given the responsibility to make sure that policing is done in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, and the population of over 12.5 million were going to look at me as having failed them. So the consequence of a sudden stop of investigation was going to impact on us as the South African Police Service in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, and myself as a person responsible for the work that needed to be done.
And what do you know whether or not the National Commissioner acted on your request to engage the Minister and establish the issues that you've highlighted?
Well, I did not hear from the National Commission after that, Commissioners, as the time were progressing. I did not, it never really came back to me to tell me what is the next course of action, but it continuously signs off the extension of the deployment of the team in the province, regardless of the letter.
And you indicate that you took some resolutions following the National Commissioner's failure to report back to you on any contact and conversation he may have had with the Minister. What were those steps you took?
Part of the, if I hear the question correct, commission to, I try to engage them, to try and reach out to the Minister so that we can talk about this. But that did not give me any success. I then took a decision to engage the Minister directly in the form of a WhatsApp that I sent him. He acknowledged that and he was to set up a meeting, but to date, that meeting never materialized.
General, you seem to have skipped paragraph 126 as another step that you took. Do you want to speak to that?
That is correct, Commissioner. In my effort to try and make sure that we get to engage with the Minister about this matter, part of my request to the National Commissioner was that if he's not able to get an audience with the Minister to talk about this, the least he must do is to approach the head of state, the President, because he he accounts to the president, and the president knows about the establishment of this team and the work that the team is doing over these years. So he must be informed about what the minister has done, and I want the National Committee to establish whether is the president aware of the decision of the minister, is he supporting this decision of the minister? Because as a provincial commissioner, I can't go directly to the president, so I needed to engage my boss, which is the national commissioner, to reach out to his boss, the president, because, of course, the executive authority, the minister, taking a decision that seems to be contrary to what we are doing as the police. I also wanted to indicate, I reminded the National Commissioner that the work of this team was as a result of the Interministerial Committee. This is not a South African Police Service operation. This is an integrated operation which account to a group of ministers as doing oversight on behalf of the President. So it cannot be correct then that one minister takes a decision without being part of the collective, or even so, the decision that is taken is an operational decision, whereas the IMC at the beginning did not participate in the formation of the team. It was the National Commission that signs off the formation of the team. The IMC were only presented with a strategy that we're going to do, which they adopted, they agree with us, and they will have received or gave their opinions if there was no need for that to continue anymore. They will have convened us and told us that the country is okay now, the murder rates have gone down that are targeted to the politicians, or therefore you might want to reconsider this operational approach that you are doing and maybe revisit the strategy, but that didn't happen. So that was our concern.
And did you receive a report back from the National Commissioner whether he's attempted to speak to the President?
No, unfortunately I did not receive a report back. I do not know what was engagement. It is for that reason, Commissioner, that without receiving that, I personally reached out to the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee as an oversight body to the police work, because I realize it looks like every door I'm knocking, nothing is happening.
In every tub of Vicks, a memory lingers. The smell in the air, the rub on your chest. Care passed down from Oma to Mama to you. Relief is in our roots.
I then contacted the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, Honorable Cameron, myself. I requested him to invite me to the Portfolio Committee. Ordinarily, I was not supposed to be part of the Portfolio Committee. But through my request, he invited me to be part of the Portfolio Committee. It is that Portfolio Committee where I was able to then express my feelings about this decision in the presence of both the National Commissioner and the Minister. But even that effort failed. Nothing happened as a result. So those are all the efforts that I did.
Thank you, Ms. Silla.
Thank you, Commissioner. And just to remind you, General, there's a portion in your statement where you elaborate further on these steps, and we will get back to it. And in particular, the engagement you had with the Portfolio Committee, because that's the first place where you were engaged by potential decision makers on the matter. All other previous efforts had been unsuccessful. But before we get there, getting back to our page 44, and I'm at paragraph 127, I'm going to invite you to read your paragraph 127 into the record. And then I point out before you do so that, and I don't know if you'll agree with me, that's conjecture on your part. It's not a fact what is in 127. So if you're going to read it, I need you to explain what informs or what leads you to form that conclusion.
Commissioner, on this paragraph, I wrote that at this stage, it had become clear to me at least that the minister issued a directive based on advice that other than the based on the records, official records of the SAPS. It was an advice from someone that would have told the minister. So I strongly suspected that that advice the minister received was the one to disband the task team. And it is my feeling, Commissioner, that after having received this continuous briefing from the Gauteng counterintelligence operation about the work that they are doing in Gauteng and the sensitivity of the cases they are investigating and the extent of thought that the political killings task team was the one that was responsible for the investigations in Gauteng towards these criminal syndicates that we had alluded to, we spoke about earlier, which involved and the participation of senior police officers in the South African Police Service, especially at the head office, as well as the senior politicians and their associates. So somebody believed that it is the political killings task team that was based on the Gauteng investigation. That was my conclusion, that whoever advised a minister advised him to close the team because they thought it is the team that is doing that investigation.
Now, and I did qualify that that is your conclusion, and in this paragraph at least you don't substantiate that conclusion or provide a basis for that conclusion. My question to you is, do you personally have any evidence, or is there anyone within the investigative arm or involved in the investigations who would be able to adduce sufficient evidence to at least support the conclusion you have drawn? Do you know of the existence of such evidence?
Commissioners, I am aware of the evidence that was extracted as the team in Gauteng were investigating, which made me reach the conclusion that indeed this is what made someone to influence the minister to close it, because the evidence that we're going to present later by someone who's going to come before this commission who were part of this Gauteng investigation, they uncovered that communication within the syndicates was making a reference to the team, not being understanding that what is happening in Gauteng is for Gauteng, is not for KZN.
You say communication between the syndicate, but you are not implying that that communication extended to the minister, are you?
To some degree, the associates, as I referred to here on this paragraph, are associates of the minister, and the very same associate does show communication that seems to suggest that the minister is fully involved in the decision that this syndicate is taking.
Do you accept the responsibility?
Although some of it will perhaps require to be covered in camera, but the evidence is there that will support my conclusion on this. The individuals, the colleagues, as I said earlier, my July briefing was a collective effort. Men and women who are part of the investigation in Gauteng, who knows and they've gathered evidence to support the allegations that we ended up making. And they are going to come before this commission and they're going to present that evidence. We will be able, under oath, to confirm that indeed that is evidence that we've collected. And we have no reason not to believe that it is the real evidence that proves the linkages between the syndicates and the minister himself.
I suspect the commissioners will flag that particular paragraph and the allegations you made there. And we'll see where the commission goes and whether or not eventually the evidence is adduced. Continuing with your statement, however, from paragraph 129 to paragraph 137, you basically deal with the experience of the task team, the efforts of the task team, the reports continuously made by the task team in challenging the conclusion arrived at by the minister in his letter of the 31st. You see that? Would you like to briefly touch on the issues that you raise in those paragraphs?
Commissioner, referring to paragraph 129.
I'm referring to from paragraph 129, where you engage now with the letter, and you stated in the letter, I quote, the minister claims that his observation is that the existence of this team is no longer required. I do not know what facts support the minister's conclusion. I deny the correctness of the minister's conclusion and aver that they are wholly baseless. That's what you stated 129. In succeeding paragraphs, you then engage with the basis for why you disagree with the minister's conclusion. And that's what I would like you to summarize for the benefit of the Commission. And that should take you to 137, paragraph 137.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. As I indicated earlier, that this political killings task team is one of many task teams that are running in the country. So for the minister to isolate the political killing task team alone raises question. And for the conclusion that the minister says that the team does not add any value, the value of the police is to prevent crime, to investigate crime, and bring the perpetrators thereof to justice. And this team has demonstrated that. So I did not understand the value the minister was referring to. Whether it was privy to the success, the achievement of the team or not, it's something perhaps the Commission will be able to bring, because to date I've never had an opportunity to ask him. These are questions I wanted to ask him, and I never had an opportunity to ask. So therefore it could not be justified that the team, with these stats that it has, that it can just be classified as a team that does not add value in the work of the police in the country. And as I said, Commissioners, that this team, through their success rate, they were even given a task that went beyond the scope of the work on their inception, and they were tasked to go and work in the Eastern Cape, and they were given the responsibility to investigate cases of traditional leaderships and the likes. So it cannot be then correct for the minister to say a team that is recognized, and it's the only one that has been recognized like this in the country, for such a team to simply make an allegation that it does not add value, it's wrong in all fronts. That's why I disagree with what the minister said. It is simply inconceivable that the entire operational management of the SAPS, under the leadership of the National Commissioner, who will see the value of this team and the efforts, the dedication, the times that these members, officers have spent away from home for years in order to assist in dealing with the reduction of our leaders of our country, the murders of our leaders of our country, that it is therefore seen by a minister as not adding value. So the sacrifice of these police officers, the recognition that the National Commissioner has made over these members, the support and the appreciation that the Inter-Ministerial Committee has expressed, including the President himself, when he was briefed about the work of this team, and he expressed it, Commissioners, not only to the IMC at one stage, he spoke directly to the investigator, to the members themselves, where he said, you are doing a good job, when he was briefed. So for all that, for the minister to come and say it doesn't add any value when everyone else is recognizing, was very bizarre. to say the least. So the reason I advance annually for the continuation of this team are those reflected in the very same reports that we're giving to the IMCs, because those reports were indicating the work still that needs to be done, the success rate the team has achieved in order to motivate the continuing existence of the team. To this extent, the minister, as a newly appointed minister to the post, having appointed in May last year, under this administration, may have required a historic perspective, the understanding of what this team has been doing before he signs this letter. He need only have had regard, ask the office, his office, to finish him with reports that were already available in his office, which were the IMC reports that are giving the status of the work of the team. He will have received that and get a briefing on it, or at least he will have engaged with the president. But prior to engaging the president, he will have called for this reporting from myself or whoever that was part of this team, in order to understand before he engages the president on the work of this team. So, for the reason unknown to me, the minister elected not only to rely on saying that the team does not any value, but he decided to issue a directive to disestablish the team. I must say, commissioners, although not written here, that in his own words, I think it will be in the record of Parliament, where the minister said he had indicated an engagement with the president about this decision that he has taken. So that's why he stands by his decision. So, which then is strange, because the National Commission has never received anything to counter that. So it remains his utterances that we do not know whether he can justify on why he reached that conclusion. So my concern...
Can I, if I may?
Yes.
And I do so with the eye on the clock now, because the chair had, I think, had put a cut-off hour of 4. I just want to, continuing on what you have in your statement, in the order as it appears, you raise a second different specific concern regarding the minister's decision, and this you deal with at paragraph 134. I would like you to highlight that particular concern to the Commission, please.
As I said, Commissioners, that the work of the team was not as a result of the Minister of Police, but was a result of the Interministerial Committee. So my concern in the main was the seeming undermining of the Interministerial Committee by the Minister of Police, because the letter does not suggest that the IMC had approved this dissolution of the team, nor that the mandate was given by the IMC to dissolve this team. The Minister has to date not advised of any IMC's decision with regard to the work of the team to date.
Okay. Now I'll take us briefly to the dissolution, the disestablishment letter, if one can call it that, of the Minister. We went through it. We highlighted what the directives were concerning the filling of the posts for the intelligence division, regarding ports of entry and the political task team. That would be at pages 185 to 186. Now, if you cast your eye on that document, does the Minister say anything about what must happen to the dockets at the time being handled by the task team upon dissolution of the team? Does he instruct or give guidance on what should happen in that letter?
The Minister's letter does not say anything about the case dockets specific. So he did not direct on what must be done on this docket. I am informed that the determination on what must happen to the docket was taken by General Sibia, through the written correspondence that he directed to his subordinate, which is the head of detectives, Lieutenant General Sentumule.
So you annex further as MK10 a letter dated the 4th of February 2025. This is authored by General Sibia, and you say that it was directed to General Sentumule. Could you just briefly tell us who's General Sentumule, whether she and how, fit in and how?
Lieutenant General Sentumule is a divisional commissioner responsible for crime detection in the country. And she is stationed at the head office, resulting under General Sibia as a Deputy National Commissioner.
Your MK10, Annexure MK10 starts from page 187. If you could turn to that. And you say it is this document that contained the determination as regards the fate of the dockets, the TASTIM dockets. Is
that is correct.
And what is the fate as determined by General Sibia in this letter?
In the main, this Minister of Police of December, which was issued, that this directive be implemented immediately. And this on his letter, he makes a reference that in compliance with this directive, he, as General Sibia, is directing that the Divisional Commissioner Crime Detection must engage with the Divisional Commissioner Crime Intelligence.
Yes. And I understand that, in summary, the directive there is all the dockets should be directed to a specific place at national office outside the KZN area. Is my understanding correct?
That is correct.
Now, do you know if you, I'll put it differently, if you, and that's assuming you had the authority, if you were, as a provincial commissioner, were to decide to disband a TASTIM operating in KwaZulu-Natal with dockets on matters relating to on dockets relating to issues and crimes arising in KZN, what would automatically happen to those dockets? If a TASTIM in KwaZulu-Natal is disbanded, and I will assume for purposes of this question that it correctly disbanded, what automatically happens to those dockets that the TASTIM handled?
A case dockets, commissioners, belong to a police station. The cases open at a police station, get registered, is going to have a case number of a particular police station. The docket might be investigated by a specialized unit, a task team, or whatever that is established. But on conclusion thereof, it goes back to the police station where it was registered. So if there was a decision to stop the work of this task team on dockets that are already finalized, will need to be returned back to the stations, and dockets that are still under investigation will also need to be returned back to the very same stations. So that those dockets have been allocated to different investigators at the station so that the work or investigation work can continue.
So what would be the basis to treat these particular 121 dockets differently, and that instead of going back to their respective police stations, that they are directed to come to national office? Would you know the basis for that?
I just did not know what could be the reason, although later I discovered what could be the motive Perhaps we'll discuss that later.
We'll discuss that later, particularly what could be. But let's try and stick to fact for the moment. Commissioner Baloyi?
Thank you. Ms. Silo, before you step off the letter, and let me direct this so that you can formulate it your way to the general. In this letter, and maybe it's because I'm not familiar with police speak, where in this letter do you say that there's an instruction to deliver the dockets to head office?
I think I can assist that by referring to the next annexure.
Okay.
Which is annexure. It's the same annexure. It's a series of letters. It starts at page 190. And the annexure, the letter at page 190 is dated the 22nd of 2025. And that also is issued by General Sibia. At item 2 of that letter, at item 1, General Sibia cross-references the letter under discussion together with another one of a previous date, 17th of January. At item 2, he states that in compliance with the Minister's Directive of the 31st of December 2024 and subsequent directives on the matter, you are advised that this process should be finalized by Thursday, 24th April 2025. And says this includes the transfer of all dockets, comma. And detective and forensic services, same as the previous letter.
Thank you.
Thank you. You followed my explanation to the Commissioner General?
Yes, Commissioner, I could just confirm that the annex are the marked 190, paragraph 2 is specific to that.
Thank you, General.
Thank you, General. So then it's clarified that at least in those 2 letters, the decision or the directive instruction is that the dockets be dealt with in the manner articulated at page 190, which is transfer of the dockets, whether closed, currently under investigation and in court, to the Division Detective and Forensic Services. Earlier, when we put up the organogram, and I checked my understanding with you, I'd understood that division to be a national division and to be one of the divisions that are under the auspices of General Sibia's division as Deputy Commissioner? Deputy National Commissioner. Deputy National Commissioner, yes. Am I correct in my understanding?
That is correct, Commissioner, as I put out in the structure that there are 3 deputies under the National Commissioner at the head office. Each of the deputies is overseeing specific functions. So in this regard, this division, detective and forensic service, it's a division that is headed by Lieutenant General Sintumule, and it results under the responsibility of the Deputy National Commissioner Crime Detection, which is Lieutenant General Sibia.
So technically, my apologies. I say so effectively, they leave the control of the task team or the provincial commissioner, and they now will resort under General Sibia through the Division Detective and Forensic Services, which is a national function.
Yeah, that is correct, Commissioner. They will have these dockets moved from one province and go over another province to a third province, from KZN past Free State and landed in Gauteng.
Did you, upon learning, now let me put it differently, when did you learn of the intention to transfer those dockets and under what circumstances?
We, as a standard practice that I'll do from time to time in the province, commissioners will be to conduct an oversight on different functions that are performed in the province. And it so happened from time to time that we do what we refer to in the province as a case flow management session. And this is where we receive presentation, I receive presentation together with my deputies on different investigations that are running in the province in order to see performance of the investigation team, assess challenges that the team has so you can support in areas where we need to support. During the session that was held in May, I came to learn that these 121 case dockets had been moved to Pretoria. And that briefing was given to me by a member that was in charge of this political killings task team at the time in KZN, Colonel Matlo, who advised me that when they moved this docket, it was as instruction of Jara Kumalo, who was a project manager of the political killings task team. That's when I became aware, May 2025.
May 2025. What did you do, if anything, upon learning?
It would have been easier, Commissioner, for me to pick up a phone and call Jaro Kumalo because I'm in constant communication with him. But since, in my eyes, this was violating the law, I felt it's important to start putting things formally. So I wrote to Jaro Kumalo, inquiring about these directives that he has issued. I was asking him about the status of these dockets because the team had presented to me that through his instruction, the dockets were taken to the head office.
And the letter you reference is at MK11, you refer to it, paragraph 138 of your affidavit, of your statement rather, my apologies.
That is correct.
And that annexure, MK11, appears from pages 192, Commissioners. If you could turn to the letter, General. Is that the letter?
That is correct. That is the letter that I wrote to Jaro Kumalo, inquiring about these dockets.
Now, it is clear from a reading of that letter that you made the inquiry to General Kumalo in the terms that you expressed yourself, but neither your statement nor your annexures say anything about whether or not you received a response from General Kumalo on these issues, did you?
Well, General Kumalo did indicate to me that he had received instruction which led him to hand over these dockets to the head office. And that instruction came from the Deputy National Commissioner Crime Detection, Jairus Bia, whom, according to the correspondence that was sent to Kumalo, it was not written to me, it was written to Kumalo, instructing Kumalo to bring the dockets, that Jairus Bia was acting under instruction of the minister on a letter of 31st that was disbanding the team.
Now, do you know whether or not the demand of the transfer of the...
He spoke to me on the phone about what has happened.
Thank you.
If I may just point out, for clarity, Chair, at 139, the witness states what General Kumalo informed him, and then he says, I was verbally informed that General Sibia acted in
I missed that. Thank you.
So I take it in the course of that conversation.
I missed that. Thank
you, Chair. So now we turn to National Commissioner. Are you aware of whether or not he knew about this demand for the transfer of the 121 dockets? And anything that you know, please indicate how you became aware thereof.
Commissioners, I report to the National Commissioner as appointed by him. Therefore, I must account to him. On the telephone conversation that I had with him, which I did not reflect on the statement, was exactly that I'm told that the dockets have been taken to Pretoria. Whether did he authorize such? And he said, no, we never authorized such transfer or movement of case dockets. And the National Commissioner, in supporting what he said to me, he had given me an affidavit. I've seen an affidavit that he wrote under oath where he indicated that he never authorized JRSBR to take these dockets. And that was in June. I beg your pardon, in July. The affidavit was dated in July. And I also know that during the recent court process where Lieutenant JRSBR had submitted an urgent application in court about his placement at home or leave of absence that he was challenging, and subsequent to that intention to suspend, that on the submission that was made by the National Commissioner to the court papers, he says the same thing that he had said to me, that he never authorized the dockers to be moved from KwaZulu-Natal to Pretoria.
So if I understand you correctly, you learned from the affidavit deposed by the National Commissioner in that matter, and the National Commissioner subsequently confirmed to you directly, personally, that he never authorized the transfer of those dockets.
The National Commissioner personally told me that he never authorized it, and then affidavits that followed confirmed the same thing.
And do you know whether or not the dockets were duly transferred? You said on the 20th, by the 20th of May, when you learned, they had been transferred, right?
That is correct, Commissioner.
Do you know what became the fate of those dockets after they left the control of the political killing stars team?
Well, the political killing stars team members were complaining to me that they are receiving unindicted complaints from the members of the family members of the victims of crime that they were in constant contact with as they were investigating these cases, in order to seek update on the work that the team is doing, and the team could not give them update on the work that has been done, and the families are not receiving any update on the work that is done. So that maybe conclude that nobody is making contact with the families, there's no investigation that has been done, and really the whereabouts exactly of these dockets was also in question. So it was my conclusion that from the time they were taken until the time when they were transferred back, nothing was done in those documents in terms of the investigation of crime.
Chair.
It is 4 o'clock, but
just two questions
my co-commissioner has a question.
Okay.
And then
mine were just to wrap up this topic.
After him, you will see when it's convenient for us.
Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner, maybe you'll deal with it in your own way because you're still continuing with your questions. I just want clarity on whether the directive was implemented. That is the directive to disband the task team. Because it seems to me that where we are going now, we're dealing with the dockets and the removal of the dockets from the task team to Pretoria. But what became of the task team itself following the directive? You can deal with it in your own way.
I guess the reference is to the warm bodies.
Yes.
People from the other groups.
What became of them? I think it is going to be, the answer to that question will be perhaps slightly lengthy and complicated, and might perhaps take you way beyond 4 o'clock more than you intend. So may I suggest that we flag it and we come back to it? The questions that I wanted to pose to the witness are just closing the issue of dockets.
That's fine.
And we open with your question tomorrow morning. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. General, so just to close up on the issue of dockets, at paragraph 142, you give just a very brief summary that seems to imply that you have a good sense of the issues that were being investigated and reflected in those dockets. Am I correct in my suggestion?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, if I am correct, my question to you then is, to your knowledge, did any of the 121 dockets contain any detail regarding investigations or generally the work of the Gauteng counterintelligence in the Gauteng counterintelligence operations? Did any of those dockets refer, could be parallel to, based on the description, the explanation you gave us earlier, to any of the work of the Gauteng counterintelligence operations?
Commissioners, the directive from Jarasibia was talking about the deactivation of the political killings task team. The case docket of the political killings task team was situated in KwaZulu-Natal, and they were not part of the Gauteng counterintelligence ops. So the GCI ops dockets were kept separately from those that were brought from KZN.
Okay.
So I don't think there was any mixture whatsoever.
Now, in last question then, and perhaps very briefly, your paragraph 141 and 142, you speak of an analysis conducted on those dockets upon their return, and you draw certain conclusions as to what happened to those dockets in the intervening period. Would like to summarize that, and that will be the last question for the day.
Commissioners, although this matter came to the public through the media briefing the National Commission had, again thanking the media for bring this matter to the attention of the entire citizens. That when the media made an inquiry to the National Commission, the National Commission already directed a week prior to that for the dockets to be taken back to KZN. And we had since convened with the Acting Divisional Commissioner of Detective Service at the time, and we agreed together with Jaro Kumalo of how we're going to deal with these dockets that are sitting in Pretoria before they come to KZN, be mindful of a possibility that the Commission might want to have a look at those dockets. So our agreement, we are going to send it over at the head office, whether it is still intact as it's coming back. As the directive of the National Commission, it was explicit that the copies of those dockets must be made and kept at the head office. So the team had to then make photocopies, scan those dockets, and sign off on each and every document that is inside the docket, and conduct inspection on the docket to see whether has there been any investigation conducted, meaning the very same team, political killing task team, that came to hand over the dockets after driving from KZN and bringing them here, they came here to come and conduct an inspection on this docket to see the status, whether there is any entry that is made on these dockets from the time they were handed over. They did find few of them, maybe a small percentage. I will not give the exact percentage now, but few of them, there were some entries that were made in those dockets. From the investigation team, from the head office, they said they were instructed to conduct inspection on the docket. As they were conducting those inspections, they had made some entries that they had confirmed, some of them, that the investigation is complete. They're supposed to be arrested, but because they're not empowered to do that, they are not investigating officers, they didn't do anything about it. They just confirmed that on paper.
I'm hanging with the elders at Wimpy, and for the first time, I'm not being sent around for anything while we eat. No more, hey, boyo, go get him fatu and salt. Today, it's me, the elders, and all the meat.
Olume, please pass me the salt.
Contact with the with the victims. The rest, there was no contact with the victims, and some of them were inspected, some of them was not even inspected. And that was the status of this team. That's why I'm saying, commissioners, that when the media asked the National Commissioner about the status of the docket, and when the National Commissioner said he has given instruction for the dockets to go to KZN, it was old story to us, because we already received the instruction a week before. So we were already doing the heading over at the time when the media brought this thing to the eyes of the public. So it came out as if it's something that was done on the day, but it's something that we were already doing the counting of the dockets. And it was a Thursday, if I'm not mistaken, when the media asked the question, and the team was already in Pretoria doing the calculation of those dockets. And on Friday, they drove down to KZN in the docket. That's why we're even reflecting there that some of them, they were on an advanced stage where suspect needed to be arrested. And I can safely say that suspect has been arrested as a result of the state of readiness of those dockets. When they arrived back in KZN within a week, there were people charged.
So in short, General, except for the few entries in some of the dockets, the contents of the dockets were intact or were what they should have been.
I did not get the commission properly, the last part.
Oh, sorry. I was saying in that audit or verification exercise, during which it was established that there were some entries in a few of the dockets, the contents of the dockets were intact or were what they were supposed to be.
That is correct, Commissioner. All the dockets were as they were handed over originally to the head office. They came back as they were.
Just one other aspect. In paragraph 137 of your statement, you say that the last sentence, the meeting was led by Colonel Matlo, who advised that the dockets had been delivered to General Khumalo. And in paragraph 142, again the last sentence, you say in the period that they were under the control of General Sibia, these arrests were not effected for reasons not known to me. The under control, the day is referring to, I understand, is it not referring to dockets? By way of example, at the time of their removal from the task team. Yes, removal from the task team. I understand that to be a reference to the dockets. Am I correct?
That is correct,
Yes.
Commissioner.
Yes. Now my question is, the dockets, according to 137, were delivered to General Khumalo, and in 142, they are under the control of General Sibia. This could mean one of or two. It could refer to two possibilities. One, they could still have remained with General Khumalo, but be under the control of General Sibia, or they could have been moved physically to be under the control of General Sibia. Can you please explain that or shed light on that?
Commissioner, in order to give clarity, you'll see when I made the last statement, when I said, before the National Commissioner conducted the interview, that myself, the acting Divisional Commissioner of Detective Services, as well as General Khumalo, had a meeting, a visual meeting, discussing on how we're going to handle the transfer of this docket or the return of these dockets back. At the time, the dockets were sitting at the office of the Divisional Commissioner, Crime Intelligence, in the storeroom of one brigadier, I forgot his name, who works under the Divisional Commissioner, Crime Detection, Lieutenant General Sentumul. It is my understanding, Commissioner, that the dockets moved from Khumalo to General Sentumule from detectives on the direction of General Sibia. Matlo on 137, Colonel Matlo, is with the task team in KZN. So he was only communicating the whereabouts of the docket according to his knowledge. His knowledge was that he handed them over to General Khumalo. What General Khumalo did with them, as the commissioner is correctly asking, he couldn't answer that. And General Khumalo, in my engagement with him, was that General Sintumule and General Khumalo, both of them, had received the instruction specific from Sibia that him, Khumalo, and Sintumule, they must transfer the dockets to each other. So meaning dockets coming from political killings task team under Khumalo's signature must come to the detectives under General Sintumule. Hence, they landed at the storeroom of Sintumule. So, but both of them, they fall under General Sibia as a portfolio in the office of the National Commission. So either way, whether they are at crime intelligence under Khumalo or they are at Sintumule under detective services, they still, both of those entities fall under General Sibia. So if we say they are under the control of General Sibia, we mean exactly that. He issued the instruction and he commanded those two entities.
Thank you, General.
Thank you, Chair. It's 16:13. I don't think I drove us to 13, but grateful for the indulgence. As I indicated, tomorrow morning we'll ensure that before we move to the next topic, we respond to Commissioner Khumalo's question.